Alrighty, here we go. I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to do some of this studio stuff, but we'll go ahead and get started. So it's been a while. I'm not really sure if we have anybody that's going to be on here tonight, but they probably will watch the video later. We're going to go ahead and talk about some stuff that I've had on my mind tonight, and I've got Ken here with me. So go ahead and introduce
Going on.
yourself, Ken. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. What's going on?
What's
Was that for
going
an
on?
introduction? Yeah. Is that introduction? Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about strength today. Something that I was inspired to talk about tonight because of a conversation I had with a friend. So let's get into it. Alrighty. So I'm gonna be honest. The thing that gave me this realization was watching Star Trek and talking to Damon a little bit um, during Star Trek. So we're going to talk a little bit about Captain Kirk. You know Captain Kirk, right?
I am familiar.
You're familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Captain Kirk, uh, basically in the movie that we were watching, at least one of them, because we watched two of them today, because quarantine. um, in one of the movies, it's one of the first Star Trek movies that actually it is the first Star Trek movie they've ever produced. And in the movie, there was this basically this big like cloud thing, unidentified cloud thing out in the galaxy, and it destroyed like a whole ship. And they were like, okay, well, this thing's headed for Earth, so we have to do something about it. And so basically, what they find out is that this cloud thing is actually a life form. And as you move forward, you find out that it's made out of pure logic. Okay, so it's this it's this cloud entirely made out of logic, but it asks itself questions like, and this is Spock, because Spock actually mind melted with this thing, uh, and it asks questions to itself like, is this all there is? Is there more to this? Is there more to me? You know, and essentially, its whole thing is it's looking for its creator to find answers, and it thinks that Earth is the creator of it. So it just wants to know answers, and essentially you can tell that its whole thing is that it doesn't understand logic. It like absorbed a person and created a duplicate, and the duplicate was like supposed to communicate to the to the ship through their own means, like English language, and through a means that is identifiable, which is a human lookalike. Um, and this character goes around the ship looking like somebody that was part of the crew and is asking all these questions about like humans and like the human race and things like that. And one thing it fails to understand is emotion. Like you can tell that the entire thing is pure logic and that it makes no logical leaps. Now, Spock originally is in awe of this because, he's Vulcan, and Vulcans care very deeply about sorry, care very deeply is probably not the best word, huh? Basically, if you know anything about Star Trek, Vulcan is Spock's race, and Vulcans repress their emotions, and they push it deep. They push it down, and they try to let only logic rule. But Spock is half human, half Vulcan. He still wants to be logical. So, anyways, he he is at first in awe of this like life form that is pure logic and understanding. But what he begins to find out is that the whole weakness of this big cloud is that it is so logical that it doesn't understand emotion. It's looking for its creator. It's looking for something bigger than itself, but those things can't be proven. And so because of that, its lack of ability to make logical leaps is why you can tell that it suffers, essentially. It wants something more to itself. But that more that it is searching for is not something that can be proven. So it's something you have to believe. And so it's naturally distraught, essentially, very angry. Um, one of the crew members, I think it was Spock, called it a child who's trying to learn and understand, but is confused. It's a very dangerous one because it's massive. Um, and basically, one of the lessons you get from the show, because there are very like a lot of lessons. Um, one of the lessons you get from the episode or the movie, is that emotion or logical leaps are actually what give us the ability to create meaning in our life. And that pure logic will not push you there, will not give you that. It is your ability to move past that sort of thing that actually allows that. So that's the first thing you learn from that. And and another thing is that the cloud learns in that process that in order to find out its meaning, in order to find out why it's alive, things like that, it has to journey inwards, has to discover itself. And it gets back to the very bottom, and I'm not going to spoil the movie or anything, but the point is there's this theme of returning back to oneself, returning inwards. And it's also something I noticed in a bunch of other shows. And I used to think of this one way where, like, in order to know, like, who you are and understand yourself, you have to, like, turn inwards, and you have to give yourself, like, attention. You have to ask yourself questions. What are your motivations? Why are these things happening? But it actually works on so many levels I didn't understand before. Um, in Westworld, have you seen Westworld, Ken, right?
Yeah, I'm up to date on Westworld.
Yeah, so there's this plot where there's this man that is inside Westworld, and he's trying to find, like, the answer to this maze that the creators of the world have put in there. And he's like, I want to get to the center of this maze. And he reaches the center, and all it is a little puzzle that's an analogy for looking inwards on oneself. And he gets pissed off because he's been searching for it for years or something, for a very long time. And he wants to get to the bottom of it. And then when he gets there, it's just a little toy that represents looking inside oneself, asking questions like, why is it that I desire this? But I realize there's more to it than just that. There's more to it than just questioning why you're interested in something. I think that's important. We do need to question why we're doing things. We do need to question, like, whether or not like, our reasonings are good or something like that. But there's also something more to that. And it's not just about trying to validate what you're doing. There's also something more to this, and it's about weakness. I feel like I've noticed recently that people are always hiding behind weaknesses. You know what I mean? Like, they have these weaknesses and they know they're so bad at it. And they try so hard to do better at those things, but it's like they just don't have the skills. It's like they just suck at those things. This is something we can all relate to. There's something that you are not good at, and you try so hard to be good at it. And every time you try, it feels like you fail. And what I found out is that there's this thing we do where we create excuses for ourselves. And most people would be like, well, no, because I'm admitting my weaknesses. I'm saying that these are real problems for me. So that's not an excuse. I'm coming to terms with the fact that I have this weakness. But the thing is, you also have strengths. And what I want to explore here is, how do you deal with your strengths and weaknesses in a way that's actually going to work? And I think that one of the mistakes we make is that we always feel like we need something more than we already have. There's something missing. And that's the wrong attitude to take. Now, I'm not taking away from growing. You should have the desire to become more than you already are. Yeah, that's really important for growth. But there's something that you are really good at that nobody else really has. And here's something really important that I've realized, which is, if you look at typology, we have like introverted versus extroverted, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, you know. You get the idea. When you head one direction, like if you're more one thing, you're less of the other naturally, because that's how the world works. If you're more one thing, you are naturally less of the opposite. So if you're good at one of those things, and there's one of those things that you have a skill in, naturally doing that is going to be more beneficial than trying to do that which you're not good at, and almost weakening your strength by trying to fulfill its opposite. It's like we feel like we should be reaching for this thing that we suck at. The truth is, though, other people are the ones that should be doing these things. There's someone out there with the strengths that you don't have. And this is like kind of what I'm getting at with typology, which I don't really want to get into typology because it's not the point. But it should tell you something that you have strengths and you're good at some things, and the other people around you are better at the things you're bad at. It should tell you something about community. How do we take this socionics thing or this MBTI thing or whatever, these differences we have, and how do we capitalize on them? How do we make it work? And I think in our world, we've done this thing where we focus so much on ourselves and developing ourselves that we forget that an essential part of working or doing well in life is the help that others can give you, because other people are seeing things that you are not. They're looking at the world in a whole different lens. And for that person to not recognize their lens as so important and significant, they are doing a disservice to everyone around them. If I'm sitting here and I'm saying that I need to be more like this or I need to be more like that, naturally my aim or focus to be better, well, that's good. If you are focused on capitalizing on your weaknesses, then you are actually doing the people around you a disservice, because there's something that you are seeing that they are not. And you not denying that, but instead embracing it and saying, this is who I am, and this is what I'm good at, and this is what I see. And offering your opinions is a really significant thing. I always feel like I've been trying to understand other people and give them the credit they're due. And because of that, I feel like I've withheld a lot of my opinions and perspectives, because I figure, well, what is my perspective worth? You know what I mean? When there's so many perspectives, it's like, why, if I'm more left than right, doesn't mean that right is wrong, and that's right. It doesn't mean that right is wrong. I know we're doing something weird here. It's not that, for example, let's pick a different analogy. Let's say that we could say white and black, or up and down. It's not that let's pick something more green and or blue and red. It's not that red is bad. It's its own very important thing. You're only good at blue. You only recognize blue. And in my situation, I'm saying, well, I recognize blue. I see my own opinion, but the problem is Red is also true. This thing that I don't believe in is also true. But the thing is, that's not what I'm good for, is it? I'm good for blue. I'm good for the thing that I'm good at. So if I keep trying to accommodate and put my strengths to the wayside, then I'm doing a disservice to the other people. If we were really, really prepared to do well for each other, it would be by being ourselves, by focusing on you and the things that you love. That is going to do so much more than feeling like you have to do things that you're not good at. And I feel like that's something that we do often and we don't even realize it. It's like, I have these skills, but the only thing I need to do well is this thing that I'm not good at. You don't need those things. That's not your job to worry about those things. What your job is to worry about the things that you're good at and to be confident in those things. Because if you're not confident and there's a situation around you where somebody's saying, well, I'm going to do this, and you realize that that's not necessarily the best thing, you could say, oh, well, you know, it could be looked at this way. And if you looked at it this way, then it could be right. It's like, yeah, but what do you know from your angle? Don't downplay your perspective. Perspective is important because, sure, you could take into account that you're a limited being, and that your perspective is just that, it's a perspective. And so why offer it? You know, thing is, your perspective is exactly what other people are missing. And you being you, and I don't just mean this in a purely socionics way. I mean, in every regard, there are things about you that nobody else has. And that makes you you. And it's very, very important for everybody else. And if you feel like you have to, make up for all these things, then it's just going to keep you from being you and enjoying the things you love and becoming who you are. You know, constantly feeling like you have to reach for something that's far off. But really, the things you love and the things you're good at are right here with you. And not only is it important to say what you think, to give people your perspective, it's equally as important to be open to what other people think. And that doesn't mean downplaying your own position. You will eventually just have to do what you think is right in the end. And trying to take in all the positions in the world will only stunt your action. You won't be able to decide because you're taking into account too many things. But when other people offer a hand to you, you have to be open to it. At the same time, you have to know that your position is really important for others too. And the thing is, people are we're sensitive, we're scared to push at the other person, to say like, oh, like, you need to be doing this, or yo, man, you're wrong about that. Like, that's so, it's not helpful. Like, you should be telling people when they're wrong. Maybe not wrong in the same way they think of it, but that's okay. You still have to say it. You still have to contribute. It's so, so important to be you and to provide the things you're good at, and at the same time, be pushy. Because, you know, if you just hold back, you're not doing anyone any good. You've got to check people. People are out there doing things that are stupid. And you could say, well, that's their preference. They don't, I don't even think they're aware of the shit they're not doing right. You know what I mean? Uh, you, Me too. I'm completely unaware of the things that I fail at. Well, I'm completely unaware of like the things I need to consider. You know what I mean? And for someone to tell me that does me so much more good than me just guessing, or just, I shouldn't have to think about those things. Does that make sense? I should be focused on the things that I'm good at, and I should be able to rely and trust on other people to tell me when I'm failing or tell me I need to consider something. And I think that we're scared to tell someone else what they should be doing, because it's not up to us what they do. And I think we have too much respect for people in that way. I think we should be pushing and we should be telling people, look, you need to consider this, or is this really how you feel, or whatever it is that comes to mind that you think that they're missing, or or you think could be done better. It's very important to recognize how even just providing your opinion can be such a monumental change for somebody else. And when I say your opinion, I mean capitalizing on the things you know. And even as an individual, even fucking forget about everybody else. Even just you, the things you love in your life. You should be doing those things. Don't start telling yourself that, oh well, I need to, I just need this. And when I have this, I'll have everything I need. You already are everything you need. The things you already have passions, things you love, and you've convinced yourself that maybe you need something else before you can fulfill those things. Maybe you need to maybe you need to accommodate for your weaknesses. No, those weaknesses are not your job. Imagine this. Imagine you take the cell structure of the body, right? And one cell is specifically designed to handle a certain kind of problem, right? As are all of them. They all have things that they are specifically designed to do for the body. And imagine every one of those cells thinking, "Oh no, I need to be doing like I'm weak at this. This cell is good at this, and I'm not, and so I need to be doing that." That wouldn't be good. Your body would be trying to do things that, or at least all the cells in your body would be trying to do things that they aren't any good at. And what would that do for your body? It makes sense, and it's important to recognize that each of your cells has a specific task for the body, and in the same way, you have a specific task in the world. And so to think that these weaknesses are something you need to work on, sure, push to be better, but not in your weaknesses, like push to be even better at what you're already good at. Other people, bring other people in your life, they're the people who need to check you on your weaknesses because they're the ones who see that stuff clearly. You, it's like trying to, it's like imagine you have like your shoulder blades and you're trying to use your shoulder blades to fly away, like wings. Like you've learned how to make your shoulder blades pop out. Maybe if I do this well enough, I can fly. No, your body's designed for that. You trying to do that is not going to do any good for you. In fact, it's just going to make you look like a fool, and it's going to distract you from the things you are good at. Just land, you know.
Right. And as far as distraction goes, it's a it's a matter of perspective and also framing. So when it comes to things, let's say that you're not good at, you're still probably at some point going to be doing things that you're not good at. But
Right.
the difference is if you're focused on those things and you're giving those
Mm,
things the priority where you have a lesser amount of strength than in other areas, then I think it's going to affect the overall view that you have of your experience just going about life. I think if you're framing things through the lens of where you are strong, then even when you do things that you are not strong in, even when you do things that you're not good at, as long as you're putting them in the right context, putting them in the proper subordinate positions that they need to be uh, in reference to your strengths, in reference to what you're good at, then even when you're doing those things you're not good at, and even while you're not doing good at those things, it's not as bad as it could be because you're not necessarily getting stuck in it. And also, another aspect of it is if you focus too much on what you're bad at, then you can lose focus on your strengths, which maybe seems obvious, but then it makes it harder to set larger goals. Because
That's exactly right.
if your focus is on the small, then your goals are going to be small. Your sense of how far you can reach is going to be small. So sometimes focusing on your strengths isn't about escapism. It's not about getting away from, uh, what you perceive to be your weaknesses. It's not necessarily about that. It's making it so that even when you're dealing with things that either are to your strengths or are against your strengths, um, you can still approach life in a large way.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. And focus is a primary element to that because, I feel like if you focus so much on your weaknesses, you miss out on your strengths. It's trying to yin when you're already yang, you know? And there's a reason that there are some people who are yin. You know what I mean? It's just naturally you go one way, you're not the other. You go left, you're not going right. And if you're naturally attuned to go left, you should go left. Right will take care of itself. You know what I mean? Recognize that you're not good at right, but don't try to right. Don't try to write if you're good at speaking, right?
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 The question, right? Oh my gosh.
And just to
And that's,
just make it a little bit more basic, just so I can wrap my head around it. Most of the time, a NASCAR driver, they're going to be turning to the left, but every now and again, they're going to be turning to the right. It does happen.
yeah. I mean,
So you
yeah. I mean, like,
have to chew on that one for a second.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and in my life, of course, I'm gonna have to, if we use socionics as an example, I'm gonna have to use the elements that I'm not good at. But I shouldn't be saying that I need to be good at these things because I am not. It's like your very nature is to be something else.
Mhm.
And that's something that, I feel like there was a point where I didn't want to think about typology because I felt like it was limiting in that sense. Um, and I was even talking to somebody recently, and I kind of mentioned typology and how it works a little bit. And he said, it feels like this limits how people think of themselves.
Mhm.
And it does have the possibility to do that, yes. But there's also something essential about it. Throw all the typology rules out the door. Throw any ideas about information elements, and throw all the functions and everything out the window. Just gone. The primary thing that matters here is that there are some things that you're good at, and there are some things that you're not. And it doesn't matter whether or not, like, because things could happen like this. I could think I'm a different type than I am, and then maybe because of that, the way I approach things is a little bit different. And so, in that way, yes, that could be a stunt. That could stunt you, hold you back, prevent you from moving on, doing things you're good at. But that's why the more important thing about typology is the principle behind it, which is that you are not strong at everything, and you do not have the potential to be strong at everything.
Mhm.
Naturally, because of, even if you just think of your upbringing, right? And this isn't like the best example, but if your upbringing was severely any spectrum, naturally, to try to imagine what it would be like to be on the right side of the spectrum would be hard. And that's the truth about anything. It's that we naturally, but because we exist, we have properties. We have things that we are good at and things that we are bad at. If you take two chemicals and you put them together, they may have a chemical reaction. You change one of the chemicals out, bring a different chemical in and mix them together, and nothing happens. They don't affect each other. Just kind of exist together, but there's no reaction. And that's because things have properties, and you yourself are a thing. You exist, don't you? Everything that exists has a property to it. And because of that, you have limits. You have a predisposition. And so recognizing that is so important, because naturally there is an opposite predisposition. There's a complementary predisposition. It's just like colors. Black and white are opposite. You know, red and blue. I don't really know like color systems that well, but there are some colors that are complementary, and there are some colors that are on the opposite end of the spectrum. And recognizing that because you exist, you have things you are good at and things that you are not good at is so important to doing the things you're good at.
Another thing too is that when it comes to being good or bad at something, that's one way to frame it. However, there's going to be times where when you're doing a thing that you're not good at, it's going to be good enough. Whatever effort that you put in, there's going to be times where it's that. So it's not, this thing where it's like, oh, I'm not really good at that. I can never be good at that. It's not that. Another way you can frame it is in terms of energy. Let's say you have a lot more energy that you can put towards something, whether that's mental or whatever. It's just your ability to, consciously either focus on something or just have the willpower to see it through. That's, let's say that's something like what you're good at, those sorts of things. And then the things that you're not good at, you have less energy. You seemingly have less willpower to focus on those things and to understand them. But that doesn't mean that in every situation, something that you're bad at is going to lead to a negative outcome. Because, as I was saying, sometimes, you're focusing on, or excuse me, not focusing, but when you're doing something that you're, not that good at or that you're bad at, sometimes the effort that you put in is going to be good enough. But that, of course, is going to depend on the situation. So I think it's important to keep in mind the idea of energy being greater or lesser in certain situations. And then also, good and bad aren't necessarily fixed categories that this stuff has to look in, or like that it has to appear as or seem like. It's just it's a way of viewing what we're talking about.
Right. And I mean it's definitely true. I mean, there's so many things that I'm not good at that are just enough for me to get by. I'm really bad at recognizing basic things. Like, if I'm hungry, it takes me a while to figure that out. If I need to do something, if there's something that I should be doing, I also have a hard time with that. My ability to think things through and analyze things and break them down and like that is not a problem. And in a way that's a little bit unique. And so here I am, I'm breathing, I ate something today. So we know that I'm not so bad that I can't support my life. I am pretty bad. But I think one of my biggest mistakes has been that the things that I'm good at, I haven't been doing because I've been focused on the things that I'm not good at. And I've used the things I'm not good at as an excuse for not doing the things that I am good at. I just need this first. And that's set a qualification on me that's prohibited me from moving further. It's not helping me. And even on a bigger level, this is what really shocked me when I was thinking about it earlier, is that people typically think that being selfish is not a good thing because you have to consider other people. But I actually think that, to a degree, selfishness is really important. You know, you you really have to do the things you love. That that is how you benefit everybody else, by doing what you love. If you are trying to benefit everybody else in some other way, you're not benefiting anybody. It's by doing the things that you are passionate about and that make you feel like you're furthering your own potential and using and doing the things you're good at. That is how you provide help for everybody else. And so, in a way, focusing on that, doing the things you love, that you're good at, is exactly how you benefit the rest of the world. And so, on a social level, taking this a little bit higher, we really need to stop thinking that we are broken. That is not a good approach. Now, in some cases, maybe recognizing where we are being held back, or maybe there's not something that's right, is a good thing, of course. If you have a broken leg, you can't be walking around thinking you don't or putting it off like it doesn't matter. That broken leg is going to prohibit you from doing what you need to do. You know what I mean? But I think knowing when you are trying to, it's kind of like there's some things that you can fix and there's some things you can't. And I think we think that maybe there's a way we can when there's not. And there's signs of that we need to listen to. There are some things you can fix, yes. But you need to realize, and it's very important to realize when there's things that you can't. If you're sick, go to the doctor. There's probably something you can do to fix that. There may be things that you struggle with that you can't fix, but knowing the difference is really important, because like I said earlier, if you've been, I mean, Ken, think about this for a second. You and I are having a conversation right now, okay? And we are two people. But if you really think about what means, it's so amazing. Like, you are essentially a reflection of experience. You have a certain property you're like a mirror that has a few properties besides just reflection. And so it's like you can only receive a certain wavelength of color or something. But instead of that, it's like wavelength of experience. Your perception is fixed. But when you look at the world, remember, because you have a disposition, it's not a pure mirror. You're only reflecting certain things. But you look out into the world and you decide based off what you know, and there's all these things you go through. And it's almost like you are just taking the image of the outside and you're compressing it inwards. That's what you are in a lot of ways, because you eat food, and so you are what you eat, in the ways that your experiences are what create you. And that's all really amazing. So in a way, you were like a cocoon of experiences. And all the experiences I've had are not the experiences you have. We're sharing this experience, but they're already so different. For one, we're not in the same place. We're not even feeling the same temperature right now. We're not, in a lot of ways, our experience of right now is very, very, very different. You're hearing my voice and you're translating it in the way that you can understand it, understanding things in the way that you perceive them. There's all these things about right now that make your experience of this moment and my experience of this moment very, very different. And You know, in that way, we are like our own worlds. We're like our own portraits. And with any portrait, there's things that make that portrait beautiful, and there's things that make that portrait different from other portraits. And so, just as an individual, who you are right now is exactly who you are supposed to be. And like, while you should always strive to challenge yourself in the ways that are best for you, because you're different. If I challenge myself, like, for example, Damon gets so much work done all the time, and I just do not have the drive or the focus to be a workhorse like that. And I wish I was, but that's just not my strength. So I should be focusing my efforts on the things that I'm good at and the things that I can contribute. Instead of challenging myself in things like that, like, oh, get this many things done a day, I know I will fail. I'll try. There's a number of reasons why I could fail. And maybe I should challenge myself a little bit, but that should not be my focus at all. To be providing the things that I'm good at, providing my gifts, my experience, my skill, my thoughts as they are. It's like trying to be somebody else. You are not that. Your opinions right now, if Ken thinks I'm a freaking idiot while he's listening to all this, that's who he is right now. And to be anyone else wouldn't be helpful because his life has literally been building up to this moment. Every experience has been colliding into him and becoming him. And so for him to try to take all that experience he's had and say, "Oh no, I shouldn't say that," or it's just not true. You be exactly who you've become up to this moment. And sure, you could say, "I've become the type of person that doubts whether or not I should say things or holds back or feels like I shouldn't state my opinion so strongly." You only get to live once. Would you rather live your entire life having no position, having no opinion, having nothing to say in moments of desperation? Or would you rather be the one who says something when you're in a situation where there's something happening in front of you and it's your job to be a participant and to say something, to stand up for what you think, and to provide your opinion and to be a presence in the room? That is a very important thing. Would you rather just pretend like you shouldn't or convince yourself that you shouldn't? No. Like, it is very, very important for you to be who you are and to say the things you think and to capitalize on the things that you know are true or the things that you are good at. If you're not doing that, why do you exist? Really? I mean, denying who you are and all the things that have made you what you are up to this point, it's like you're trying to put a blindfold on and say, "Oh no, I'm not." You're like, "I shouldn't be able to see. I have eyes, but I've covered them because I shouldn't be able to see." You really need to be focusing on the things that you are equipped to do and use all those experiences and all those memories and everything to state your view as you see it and to be strong in that. And when you see moments where someone's struggling or someone's making an action that you think they're not aware of why they're doing it, you should say something. You should give them perspective. That's why you're here. You're a participant for a reason. And look, we could get into the reasons all day. We could say like, "Oh, well, why are you a participant? Did something create you? Did you evolve?" We could explore the meaning of our existence for a very long time, but it doesn't matter ultimately What matters is that you are a participant, and there are responsibilities to that. Responsibilities to be and to exist and to state your opinion, to act when it's necessary, or maybe even not when it's necessary, but maybe instead of sitting back and wondering if you should act, just acting, you know? So I've got Alice is probably one of the only people watching us tonight. Thank you so much, Alice. I appreciate you. I know I haven't posted on here in a long time. She said, I find if I hate my work and you're also not good at it and do it every day, I could get ill easily. It makes me try to do what I like and what I'm good at. That's another thing. If you feel like you can't do the things that you're trying to do, it's like banging your head up against the wall, and it can lead to a lot of like emotional letdowns. Hold on, we gotta let Ken back in here.
Yeah, I was trying to read the comments and accidentally left.
No worries. But yeah, you Ken, you can actually, there's like a comment area on the sidebar
Oh
on the
yeah,
stream.
no, I'm aware. I was just hitting the X on it and hit the wrong X and hit the X for the StreamYard app.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so that's another thing. It affects your health. Like you got to think about this. When is someone in their best element? It's when they're confident. It's when they're almost cocky and arrogant. Not too cocky and arrogant. If you think you're better than you are, you have to be realistic. If you think you're better than you are, then, that can stunt you in a lot of ways. But, when you do your best work, it's because you know what you're capable of and you're testing your limits. And so do the things you love, do the things that you aspire to do. And honestly, earlier I was thinking about this and I just thought, I'm literally thinking about like all these things that I'm good at and I'm still not doing them. Here I am. This is why I'm making this video, not only because I learned something today, but because I want to be doing the things that I know I'm good at. And I want to do it often. I keep feeling like I have to refine something or keep working on this project, keep expanding my knowledge. And sure, yes, but do it in a way that's enacting the things you're good at. And don't ever try to be good at the things you're not. You know what I mean? Like there's some things you were just not meant to be good at, and you can do them to some extent, to the extent that you need to do them. But your job is not to be that person that is good at those things. That's why you're not good at them. You are not here for that. That is not your destiny. That's not why you're breathing our air. You have something to say, Ken?
Well, first I was going to say you had background noise going on, but now it's stopped. Yeah, just I feel like we've already used 24 analogies for this shit, but I feel like another way to view it is like planets with gravity, something like that. It's like you got certain things in your life, certain aspects of your character, your personality that it's like having a large planet, and it's like got a lot of gravity to it, and it's like it's pulling you in, it's trying to pull you in, it's almost as though you're in a little spacecraft, and you can either go towards the things that are already trying to pull you in those directions, or you can focus on the smaller stuff and try to move in the direction of these things that it's going to be harder to get to anyway, because you're having to move against the current that's already taking you somewhere.
It's a very insightful way of putting it. I mean, I never thought about it that way. That is really, because it's true. In spirituality, they always talk about fighting the current.
Mm.
If you're in water and the stream's going one way, like stop trying to make it go the other way. Stop trying to swim up shore. And you know how I initially interpreted that? I interpreted it as life is already on a path. and you trying to push up against it is making it more difficult for you because life is going to unfold as it will. You could say it's God's plan. But as I matured, I realized that fighting against the current is important until you just stated it the way you did, and then you actually unlock something. Because I, I thought, well, you should be fighting against the current too, because it's our dissatisfaction with the way things are that makes things better in our lives. It's the only reason I'm sitting here with internet, a webcam, a desktop computer, a blanket, headphones. I don't know if I said air conditioner, electricity, all those things, shelter. These were things that especially the technological things, or things that we were dissatisfied with the way things are and we wanted our lives to be better. And so we created, and you can also apply that to just desire in general. Like, you desire to learn more. And because of your dissatisfaction with the amount of knowledge you have, or you explore, maybe even invent things like, these devices. That's how they came to be. Is through someone who was dissatisfied with either their knowledge or with the amount of tools they had at their disposal. Or maybe it was a temperature. They were dissatisfied with the temperature of their house, and so they found a way to make it cooler. And that's another great example, or warmer. These are ways in which we've been dissatisfied. But I think the part that I missed, which I'm so glad you said it the way you did, is that you have a predisposition. Like, as a person, it's not about it. If you don't look at it, these themes, they work on different levels. On a bigger level, on a universal scale, there is a flow of life. And to try to fight that flow is going to be really difficult because it has somewhere it's going. But on a personal level, there's a flow coming out of you. There's something that you are really good at and empowers you, makes you feel alive. It's the things you love and you're passionate about. And feeling like you have to grind up against all these things you're bad at, that's just not the right attitude. So my original idea of this was that fighting against the current of life is not what you should be doing. That's just not true. That's not the point. Sure, still go with the stream. Life is going somewhere. If you fight against it too hard, you may just tire yourself. But there is some direction that you are going as a person, some place that you are good at, that you are in love with, and that naturally you flow this direction. Trying to utilize your strengths and say like, oh, I should be doing these things. I should be going upstream. You are only going to tire yourself out. Give in to the things you're good at, the things that you love, the things that empower you. Those are the things. That's your stream. Don't fight against your stream. Don't try going left when you're already right. When you're already so good at right. This is who you are. And if it's a real challenge to be something else, you shouldn't be that something else. There are other people who can be that. Be what you are good at. Go the direction of your stream. And don't feel apologetic about it. If someone tries guilt tripping you or saying that you are some bad person for doing what you're doing, hear them out to an extent, because you don't want to be doing something that is too harmful. You want to be thoughtful in your approach. But a lot of times, people that are so convicted that you're not doing things right, they may have a point, but they may also not be seeing what you're seeing. So don't invalidate your own position just because someone has a differing one, but be open to other people's position. Your position is what you know, and you can take feedback, you can take input that you hadn't thought of, and you can consider a way forward that maybe accommodates that thing. But if you know that there's something else you should be doing, and that's what you're good at. That's what you are empowered to do. You should be doing that. Don't try to fight the current. Do the thing that you love, because that's how you get in your element. That's how you be yourself to the best extent, and that's on every level. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. I'm not just talking about human beings. I'm talking about anything in life. Stop trying to be the thing that you're not. It's just like I said earlier, the human body, if your cells were trying to be something they're not, be something good at, do something that they're just not good at, if every one of your cells in your body was supposed to be supporting you by doing the things, it's their own jobs. But then they were like, oh, you know what? That kind of cell is really good at that, and I want to be good at that too. So I'm going to stop trying to do this. I'm going to try to do that because I admire that. You can try, but you might want to start noticing when you're hitting a brick wall, when no matter how hard you try, it just seems like you aren't built for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about this, right? I'm an II. I don't want to get too into type, but do you know, like, when I watch like episodes or shows of like Dragon Ball Z or like Kin Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul or whatever, I see these characters that are so powerful and so strong-willed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, I want to be like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not who I am, though. And I can admire that. And that's another thing. Even if you think about this, in relationships, I was talking to somebody about this today. In relationships, it's so important to have admiration on both sides. If one person is better in every way at everything than somebody else, and the other person in the relationship, you're not both getting fulfillment. One person feels great, and the other person probably feels like shit. It's important in a relationship to recognize the things that your partner is good at and to admire them. And hopefully they admire the things you're good at too. It creates mutual respect. And that is something that, I was just trying to remember how I was talking about it. Oh, the same way. I can look at SLEs and be like, oh my gosh, they're so strong-willed and powerful, and like that's so admirable that they can do so much and that they have so much skill. But there are so many things that I am good at that they are not. And instead of trying to be them, I should just respect them. Because in a way, respecting someone's differences and admiring them, but still capitalizing on your own, is exactly the way that you should be going about things. In so many regards, just like I said now, what is a relationship without mutual respect? Is it going to succeed? Probably not. It will, if it continues, doesn't mean it's succeeding. You can put each other through hell for a long time. Mutual respect is so important. And so that is, I think, a good indicator that we should be recognizing the things that we wish we were good at with admiration in somebody else. The things we're not good at, we shouldn't be trying to do those things. Only to the extent that you know how, or that you can. If you find out that you challenge yourself and it doesn't work, then maybe those things aren't meant for you. But that only gives you the capacity to admire them in someone else so much more. And that capacity is important to build meaningful relationships. And relationships, while they don't seem important to some, they're very important. Because, like I said before, if you have complementary colors and you have colors on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you are looking at a community of people, this is the world we live in, by the way. We have a bunch of people who think they should be taking on the world by themselves. We have a very individualistic society, and we focus on what I am able to do for myself. And I want everyone to know that the person who's saying this was raised in a position where I didn't necessarily identify with my family. I know some people. I spoke to somebody the other day, and she was saying that the most important thing in her life is her family. In fact, it's all she has. That's what she said. Do I relate to that? No. I appreciate and love my family, but I am not like that. Now, the important thing to recognize here, though, is that trying to do everything on your own just doesn't work. This is why you are important, and the things you love are important. But without plugging them into the greater whole, then what are you doing? There are people out there who need you, and your skills and your perspectives and your ideas or your actions, the things that you're good at, they need those things. And so in a group environment, it would be stupid for the whole group to be trying to do things best for themselves and only themselves. Because, for example, like I said earlier, there are things that I'm bad at in my life, and I do them to the extent that they're required, but they could use more flourishing. There could be more. Those parts of my life are almost dead, and they could use a flourishing to them. And it's because that's not what I'm good at. That's not my focus. And even if I tried being good at it, it still wouldn't flourish. It's so important. You got to recognize that within a society, within a group, it's so important not to be focused only on oneself. Take the things you know you're good at and help other people with them. Be confident in that. Because you know what people are going to want to do naturally? Pay you back. Help you out. In any way they know how, and any way they're good. Because if you really help somebody on something they're not good at, they're going to naturally feel compelled to help you. And that's why it's so important. Find places that you're needed. Find places that are missing your perspective and throw your perspective at that, or throw whatever skill you have at that. If we all live in a world where we're all focused on ourselves, then how are we supposed to help each other? Let me help you, you help him, he helps her, she helps him, and he helps me. You know what I mean? And we can cover each other's bases. This is why we're stronger together.
Yeah, I got a couple minutes left, so I don't know if you want to keep going or do a recap or anything.
Yeah, are you gonna? You have something else to do?
No, I'm gonna be going to bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We can recap.
Right on.
So, yeah, altogether, it's just really important that, one, you know what you're good at. I mean, you should already know this. But two, know the things you're bad at. Do the things you're good at in any place that you feel is missing the things you're good at. You need to insert your perspective where it's needed, where you can see that it's lacking. And naturally, if you do this for other people, make friends, for Christ's sake. Other people need you. You don't realize it. The things that we're all like, no one needs my help. I'm bad at all these things. Yeah, but you're also good at all these things. People out there need your help. So find the people that need your help and help them. And they will want to help you in return. And so I think that's a really valuable lesson. And actually, I think it's profound. I know it doesn't sound profound because I haven't made it apply to a bigger level, but this is something that is necessary. It's something that you will fail if you don't do. It's very important that you capitalize on your strengths. And if we all recognize this and we all did this, we would be much better off. We are blind in thinking that we can do things on our own. And we are blind in focusing so much on the things we are not naturally good at. The reason that you want to be good at those things and aren't good at those things is so that you can admire them in other people. and so that you can make someone else feel fulfilled in that regard. So just recognize that. Stop thinking that you are held back in some way, because you are empowered because of who you are and what you've been through. All of the things that you have and know are so valuable to somebody else. And while they're not valuable to you because they're so second nature, I know that you like doing that thing, so you should be doing that. So, you have any closing thoughts on that, Ken?
Yeah, when it comes to doing things that you're good at, sometimes when it comes to something like skills, or let's say potentially something like a career or whatever, something that takes time and effort to develop, sometimes doing what you're good at is not going to be immediately obvious.
Right.
Sometimes you do a thing that maybe seems less useful, but is a doorway or a gateway to what you're going to thrive at, because maybe even if it's not necessarily practical, it might be something that at the very least has your interest, and that's kind of step one of having that thing that kind of has that gravity to it, that thing that's going to be pulling you back.
Interests, I feel like, are essential. They are. You only have that interest because of the things that you like and the things you're good at. If you deny your interests, you're not helping yourself. You know what I mean? And some of those things, like everything, you refine with time. Do the things you're compelled to do. Don't convince yourself away from those things. The only reason a musician succeeds is because they're so captivated by the thing they love doing and the thing they're good at. And because they've been so captivated by it, they've chased it and they refined it. When they first started, they were shit. And like you said, things take time. But if you feel compelled to go do something, don't convince yourself out of that. Do the things that empower you and you feel like deep down are the things that you desire and want. And there are some things you're going to want that you won't be any good at. You can try, but if you find out that you're not going to be able to do it, and that no matter how much you try, give yourself a fair chance, give yourself some time. If you find out that those things aren't going to work for you, or that you keep hitting a brick wall, start doing things that don't keep giving it your attention. Don't keep trying to beat on a dead horse. I've been using this analogy lately of an arm, like chopping off someone's arm and then trying to keep the arm alive by like applying pressure on one end to like simulate a heartbeat, and like blowing into the arm to like put like oxygen in it in the bloodstream. Like, it's a dead arm. Like, you're not going to bring the arm alive by trying to, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be able to breathe life back into that arm. And so in the same way, don't devote yourself to a lost cause. Do the things you love, the things you're good at. It's the only thing you can do. And some things are going to take time, but, don't do the impossible. So, yeah, I think that's everything I have. Do you have any?
Don't blow on limp sacks of meat. That's what I gathered.
That is a great way of putting it, Ken.
Yeah.
So if you got anything from this entire video, I think that is a primary point that encompasses everything. If you find a sack of meat, do not try blowing on it and bringing it back to life, because it will not work.
I guess we should specify dismembered sack of meat. I think that's really the key here that makes it.
Yeah. Dismembered sack of meat. It's not going to work. So, perfect. I think we did a pretty good video. So thank you, Ken, so much for showing up, and I'll probably, maybe if you're up for it, have you to record something. Maybe I'll help you contribute to it. I do want to do this more often. I miss it. And so, yeah. But thank you, anyone who's watching. I know we didn't have a lot of live viewers. It's pretty late at night. and I have been pretty vacant on my channel. But anyone who's watching or has watched, please give it a thumbs up if it helps you in any way. I'm going to need the help for the channel. So thank you for being a participant. Thank you for enjoying. And if you have any ideas for any future videos or topics, or you want to hear perspectives, let us know in the comments, and we'll do our best. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Alrighty. All
Later.
right, say bye, Ken.
I've said bye already, man. Peace.
Okay. All right.